My name is Sophia, and I never imagined that one slap could unravel everything, the carefully built illusion of our perfect family. Looking back, I should have noticed the clues. The late-night texts, the hushed conversations, the way Robert would hide his phone whenever I walked into the room. But when you're juggling two kids and trying to manage a home, the obvious things slip by unnoticed. My relationship with Lila, my mother-in-law, was always a little strained. Not openly hostile, but certainly far from warm. She'd always been polite at family events, remembered the kids' birthdays, and occasionally offered to help babysit. But there was an unspoken tension, a quiet waiting for me to slip up. "She's just protective of Robert," my sister would say when I voiced my frustrations. "You know how some mothers are with their only sons." But what Lila called protective often felt like surveillance. She dropped by uninvited, usually when Robert was at work, saying she was just in the neighborhood. She'd wander through our house, running her finger along surfaces, scrutinizing the state of things, and even peeking into the fridge. Her comments were always loaded with passive aggression. "Oh, more takeout containers," she'd click her tongue. When Robert was growing up, I always made sure he had home-cooked meals. The kids, Thomas, 8, and Rose, 6, adored their grandmother. She'd spoil them with gifts and affection, calling herself the fun one, while I was the boring mom who made them do homework and eat vegetables. I tried to maintain peace for Robert's sake. He was always caught between me and his mother, trying to keep both of us happy. "That's just how she is," he'd shrug after a tense visit. "She means well." The day everything came crashing down started like any other. It was a Saturday morning, and I was doing laundry while the kids watched cartoons. Robert had left early for what he said was an emergency at work, a common excuse for an AP manager dealing with weekend crises. I was sorting through his pants when I felt something hard. Pulling it out, I found a phone I didn't recognize, an old, beat-up model, the kind you'd use if you didn't want to be traced. My hands trembled as I powered it on. No password. Just a list of calls and texts to a number saved as K. The most recent message read, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place." I sat on the laundry room floor, reading message after message, each one a slap to my chest. The calls spanned months. The texts were worse. Intimate exchanges, plans to meet, complaints about his controlling wife. I was still gripping the phone when I heard Lila's voice from the living room. Of course, she had shown up unannounced again. "Sophia, where are you?" The front door was unlocked. "Really, you should be more careful with my grandchildren's safety." I shoved the phone into my pocket and walked out to greet her. She was standing in our living room, purse hanging from her arm, eyeing everything with that familiar disapproving stare. The kids had abandoned their cartoons and rushed to her, eager for attention. "Grandma brought cookies." Rose squealed. "Before lunch? Really, Lila's?" I couldn't keep the frustration out of my voice. Lila gave me that infuriating, condescending smile. "A few cookies never hurt anyone, Sophia. But I suppose you would know, being so rigid with everything. Maybe it was the weight of the phone in my pocket, or maybe it was the years of biting my tongue, but something inside me snapped. I pulled out the phone and held it up. "Speaking of rigid, Lila, care to explain why your perfect son has a secret phone?" The change in her expression was instant. The smug smile disappeared, replaced by something darker. "Where did you get that?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Found it in his pocket." Fascinating reading material. I turned to the kids. "Thomas, Rose, go to your rooms."
"Now?"
"But Grandma's cookies," Thomas started. "Now," I commanded. They left without protest, sensing something in my voice. Once they were gone, Lila stalked toward me, hand outstretched. "Give me that phone." "You have no right to." "No right?" I laughed bitterly, the sound almost manic. "He's my husband. These messages, has he been cheating on me the entire time? Did you know?" Her face twisted with fury. "How dare you go through his private things? This is why he needs someone else. You suffocate him with your rules, your suspicions." "You knew," I whispered, the truth settling over me like a weight. "You've known this whole time." "Of course I knew," she spat. "Robert tells me everything." Who do you think has been covering for him, making sure you didn't get suspicious when he needed to get away? He deserves some happiness after being trapped with you for 10 years. I felt like I was drowning in cold water. All the unannounced visits, the emergencies, she hadn't just known. She'd been complicit. She'd been helping him cheat. Give me that phone, she demanded again, her hand reaching for it. No. I held it out of her grasp. I'm calling him right now. He's coming home to explain. The slap caught me out of nowhere, a sharp sting that made my head snap to the side. The phone dropped to the floor as I staggered back, my cheek burning. You ungrateful little witch. Lila screamed. After everything we've done for you. Mom. Both of us froze. Thomas and Rose stood in the doorway, wide-eyed and terrified. Rose was quietly crying, and Thomas looked like a child who had seen something far too ugly. Did you hit Mom? Thomas's voice was barely a whisper. In an instant, Lila's grandmotherly mask slid back into place. Oh, sweeties, no. Grandma would never. Your mother and I were just having a little disagreement. Get out. My voice was frigid, barely controlled. I touched my cheek, where it still burned. Get out of my house. Now. You can't keep me from my grandchildren. Leave. I screamed, my voice cracking with anger. Before I call the police and show them what you just did in front of my kids. She grabbed her purse, her face twisted with hatred. This isn't over, she hissed, her eyes venomous as she walked toward the door. When Robert hears about this. Oh, he'll hear about it, all right, I said, clutching the phone in my hand. He'll hear everything. After she left, I held my sobbing children, trying to explain what I barely understood myself. But as I sat there, still reeling, one thing was clear. The phone wasn't just a betrayal of my marriage. It was the beginning of a war. I never wanted to fight, but now I was ready. Lila had no idea what she had set in motion. That phone would take down far more than just my marriage. A single slap had started an avalanche, and everything was about to fall apart. I spent the next hour soothing the kids, though my mind was racing. Rose wouldn't stop crying, clutching her stuffed bunny as if it could protect her. Meanwhile, Thomas's questions came like a flood. Mom, is Grandma going to jail? Do the police need to come? I knelt to their level, forcing a smile I didn't feel. No, honey. Grandma just made a mistake, and sometimes adults get upset and do things they shouldn't. But everything's okay now. The throbbing in my cheek begged to differ, but my priority was keeping them calm. Once they were settled in Thomas's room with a movie, I sat at the kitchen table. The secret phone lay in front of me like a bomb. It didn't take long to uncover the full extent of Robert's betrayal. Message after message between him and Kay revealed every painful detail. The conversations swung from flirtation to full-blown intimacy, peppered with complaints about his controlling wife. Miss you already. Can't wait till next weekend when the witch kicks the kids to her moms. Lila's covering for us again. She's the best. Your wife seriously doesn't suspect? Lucky you. Each text was like a stab, but the real shock came when the phone buzzed in my hand. A new message from Kay. I'm here. Where are you? Don't keep me waiting like last time. My chest tightened. This wasn't some distant memory. It was happening right now. My hands shook as I typed back. Where exactly? Just want to make sure I'm in the right place. The reply came instantly. Same as always. The Cardinal Hotel, room 412. My heart dropped. The Cardinal Hotel, a modest place just 15 minutes from our house. I had the proof I needed. I called our neighbor. Can you watch Thomas and Rose for an hour? It's an emergency. And didn't hesitate. Minutes later, she was at my door, and I was driving to the hotel, adrenaline roaring in my ears. The lobby of the Cardinal Hotel was nondescript, neutral tones, generic art, and an oblivious receptionist. I made my way to room 412, my footsteps heavy but determined. I knocked. The door opened, and there she was, blonde, young, beautiful, wearing nothing but a shirt, the one I gifted Robert last Christmas. Her smile faltered when she saw me. Can I help you? Is my husband here? My voice was steady, but my insides churned. Her face drained of color. Before she could answer, Robert's voice called from inside. "Who is it, Katie?" So Kay had a name. I pushed past her into the room, and there he was, my husband, scrambling to pull on his pants. His eyes widened as he saw me, panic written across his face. "Sophia," his voice cracked. How did you?" I hurled the phone at him, hitting him square in the chest before it clattered to the floor. "Your mother slapped me in front of our kids today," I said coldly. Did you know? Did you know she's been covering for you, helping you cheat?" Katie tried to slip past me toward the door. I stepped in her path. "Oh no, you're not leaving. How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, glancing at Robert. "Tell me," I shouted. She flinched. "2 years," she whispered. "But he said you knew, that you had some kind of arrangement." I laughed, the sound raw and bitter. "An arrangement? Is that what you told her, Robert? That your wife was fine with you sneaking around while she raised your kids?" "Sophia, please," Robert stammered. "Let's talk about this at home." "Talk? You want to talk? You've had 2 years to talk, and instead, you lied to my face every single day." I jabbed a finger toward him, my voice rising. "You've destroyed our family, and your mother helped you do it." She slapped me, Robert. In front of Thomas and Rose. Katie pressed herself against the wall, horror dawning on her face. "You never said anything about kids," she whispered to Robert. "Or violence." Robert ran his hands through his hair, looking every bit the pathetic liar he was. I pulled out my phone and held it up. "By the way, I've been recording this entire conversation. So if you or your mother even think about trying to paint me as the bad guy, I'll make sure everyone sees exactly who you are." Robert paled. The Cardinal Hotel was where his company hosted clients. Using the company's accounts for his affair would destroy him. "You wouldn't," he whispered. "Try me," I hissed. "Now pack your things and get out of my house. Go stay with your precious mother." I turned to Katie. "And you might want to get tested. He's clearly been lying to both of us." With that, I walked out, slamming the door behind me. The drive home was a blur. I barely registered pulling into the driveway until I saw and waving from the porch. "Stay for dinners?" I asked, my voice cracking. She nodded without hesitation. Of course. That night, as we ate pizza and watched cartoons with the kids, my phone buzzed nonstop, messages from Robert, Lila, even his father. I ignored them all. Around midnight, headlights illuminated the driveway. I watched from the window as Robert and Lila loaded his bags into her car. When they tried the door, they found it locked. Anne's husband had changed the locks hours ago. As they drove away, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Katie. We need to talk. There's more you should know." I stared at Katie's message for what felt like an eternity. Could there really be more? Hadn't my life unraveled enough? Still, curiosity gnawed at me until I finally responded. We arranged to meet the next morning at a coffee shop, just after I dropped the kids at school. I half expected her to ghost me, but she was there when I arrived. No makeup, her hair in a simple ponytail, and nervous energy poured off her as she cradled her coffee cup. She looked nothing like the confident woman I had seen at the hotel. Her first words were, "I'm sorry." I stayed silent, letting her squirm. "Finally," she continued. "I thought you knew. I swear, Robert told me you were separated. He even showed me papers, divorce papers. He said it was all for show, for the kids." The blood drained from my face. "What papers?" Katie hesitated before pulling out her phone. She handed it to me, showing a picture of divorce documents. My name was at the bottom, signed and dated, my forged signature. I shoved the phone back at her, my hand trembling. "What else?" I demanded. Her voice wavered. He told me to invest in his business ventures. Said he needed to get his finances in order before leaving you. I gave him nearly $50,000. And I'm not the only one. There are others, at least 2 more I've talked to. We found each other online. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. "Others?" I managed to choke out. Katie nodded. "He and your mother-in-law have been doing this for years. She meets the women first, makes us feel special, talks about what a terrible wife you are, how trapped Robert is. She sells us on the idea of rescuing him. Then he reels us in. I stared at her, my stomach churning. It wasn't just an affair, it was a scam. My husband and his mother were con artists. Katie handed me a folder with everything she had, bank statements, screenshots, even photos of the forged documents. We're going to the police, she said. We thought you should know first. I left the coffee shop in a daze, clutching the folder like it was a lifeline. When I got home, my phone buzzed with 3 voicemails from Lila. The first was calm. You're making a mistake, dear. The second was pleading. Think about the children. Don't let this ruin their lives. The third was ice cold. If you go through with this, we'll destroy you. We have evidence you're an unfit mother. Don't test us. I didn't even flinch. Instead, I forwarded the voicemails to my lawyer. When she listened to them, her eyes widened. This is witness intimidation, she said. And with these forged documents, Mrs. Carter, this isn't just a messy divorce. This is a criminal case. From there, everything happened fast. The police got involved. More women came forward, 5 in total. Robert and Lila had perfected their scam long before I came into the picture, targeting wealthy single women and divorcees. They'd been running this con for nearly a decade. Robert didn't contest the divorce or custody. He was too busy trying to stay out of jail. When the forged documents came to light, he threw Lila under the bus, claiming it was all her idea. Lila, in turn, painted herself as a devoted mother trying to help her son escape a bad marriage. The judge didn't buy any of it. Robert got 3 years for fraud. Lila received 18 months for her role. I got full custody of the kids and a fresh start. Thomas and Rose ask about their father less and less these days. We've been in family therapy, working through everything, and they're starting to smile again. Kids are resilient, or so my therapist says. I just hope she's right. Last week, I got a letter from Lila in prison. It was full of apologies and excuses, how she was just trying to give Robert the life he deserved. I didn't write back. Sometimes I think about that slap. How one moment of violence exposed years of lies. Lila thought she could put me in my place, but instead, she shattered the facade they'd built. The kids and I still live in the house, but it feels different now. We've painted the walls, rearranged the furniture, and made it ours. Anne's husband installed a security system, just in case. Yesterday, Thomas asked if we could take down the family photos that included Robert and Lila. They're not really our family anymore, he said. They just pretended to be. So, we took them down and replaced them with new ones. Just the 3 of us, laughing and healing. That slap didn't just change my life. It saved it.